So you've done all the hard yards with visa applications, said your goodbyes back home, packed up your entire life into 1 or 2 suitcases, and you finally touched down, visa in hand, in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Or whatever one of the many names you decide to call it. Now what? First thing is to take a step back and reassess your life choices. But why? Why would you come here? I'm filming this in the afternoon and I haven't seen like a lick of sunlight all day today. But if you're still keen on making a life here, there are a ton of things you need to do from the outset, and I'm going to take you through all of it. I'm Lashan, I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I moved to London a little over 2 years ago, and I've spent the last 4.5 years living abroad. And in this video, I'll be guiding you through all those crucial first steps you need to do once you've touched down in the UK. We'll be going through everything from the important first things to do just as you arrive, what phone carrier to go with, banks, transferring money, apartments, driver's license, and how to get a job. So I've split this video into 2 sections where the first part will be applicable to anyone moving to anywhere in the UK, and then the second part focusing on more London specific advice like money saving tips and tricks you need to know, areas to live in, and apps you should download to help you get around. Chapters below. If you're just beginning your journey and haven't got your working holiday visa yet, I explain every detail to do with that in part 1 of the series right here. So give that a watch first and I'll come back. I'll wait. This is how to move to the UK part 2. So if you found this video helpful, hit subscribe for more guides and fun videos coming up. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, or better yet, check out one of the many expats in London/UK groups there are on Facebook. There's one for basically every nationality and they're generally very helpful. Maybe not the Aussies in London one though, that's a bit more toxic. Let's go. BRP. This by default needs to be the first thing you do once you arrive in the UK, because without it, you can't really do anything else. This plastic card is your visa. Just never lose this, please. For your own sake. You'll need this all the time when setting up your life in the UK and when traveling. When receiving your passport back from VFS or TLS after your visa application, you should also be told the address of the post office that has your BRP, which should be the closest one to the address you stated that you'd be staying at in your application. You just have to go there and ask for it. And you're done. Step 2. Where's my BRP? Where did that go? Oh God. National insurance number. This is basically your social security number and you'll need it for anything job or tax related, or even registering to vote. There's 2 steps to this: applying online, which you can do with the link in the description, and then proving your identity, which can be done through posting photocopies or doing an appointment in person. To prove it, you'll need your passport and BRP. And if you're from the EU, Norway, Liechtenstein, or Switzerland, a national identity card can also work. Just a note for anyone deciding to have an appointment in person, they're at a Job Centre Plus office, which is basically like a Centrelink for anyone from Australia. If you have an appointment there, don't schedule plans for anything right afterward. Your day is done. Let's just say they're not in any way efficient or timely. I had an appointment at 3 p.m, made it there on time, and I was waiting for over an hour before I got seen and was done after 5 p.m, like well past their closing time. Once that proof of ID is done, it can take a very long time to actually get that number approved and in the mail, up to 16 weeks. But they'll give you a confirmation letter that you can show recruiters and employees in the interim and then send them the actual NINo once you have it. I got mine after 6 weeks or so. Next. Phone service and SIM cards. One of the best parts of living in the UK is the abundance of amazing value phone plans with generous amounts of data that you can, at least for now, continue using for free while traveling through Europe, which is invaluable. I've been using gift since I arrived and I have no complaints. They're excellent value, coverage is great with the O2 network, it's month to month, so there's no lock-in contract, which is great if you already have a phone, and for some reason they just keep adding more and more data to my existing plan without even me asking. You can pay £10 for 10 gig, £15 for 25 gig, or what I pay for, £20 for 100 gigabytes. Because after living in Canada with their truly extortionate phone plans, when I first arrived in Canada, I paid $50 for 1 gigabyte. 1 giga. Very understandably, I wanted more data than I ever had to worry about. And I have it. It's great. Having that much data also helps a ton for working remotely. giffgaff is easy to set up. Just order a free SIM using the link below or in the description. You'll get a £5 credit and they'll deliver it to your UK address in a few days. Easy. Next up, banks. Banking in the UK is amazing. Like transfers are free and literally instant, which blew my mind 2 years ago. And most ATMs you come across have no withdrawal fees. The first bit of advice I'm going to give you is this. All those brick and mortar traditional banks, your Barclays, your Lloyds, NatWest, forget them. All of them. All they're going to give you is a headache, since they don't really understand the concept of a person who isn't from the UK. Imagine that. When I first arrived, a friend of mine told me I could just rock up to a Lloyd's branch and just ask to open a bank account, so I did. I got there and was told that before I could do anything, I needed a proof of address when I just moved to the country yesterday. I told them that, and then all I got was a blank stare. So I need to get an apartment, but then to get an apartment, I need a UK bank account for proof of funds, but then to get that, I need an apartment. You see where I'm going here. It's an endless loop. What you need to get is a bank account with one of the online-only startup-y fintech banks like Starling Bank or Monzo. They are way more lax with the verification rules, only asking for an ID that proves your right to reside in the UK, so your BRP, and an address to send your card to. They also have the best exchange rates I've ever come across. Basically the same rate you see on Google every time. I have both, but I got my Starling first and I prefer it over my Monzo. Monzo is easier for paying back friends, but I've tried and tested my Starling for literally everything else. When it comes to travel, Monzo only allows you to withdraw £300 in cash per month while overseas, which could be a problem for some countries like in Central America or Guatemala, whereas Starling lets you take out £200 in cash a day. That's a huge difference. It's also really easy to set up a business account if you need one, and customer support is fantastic. I had a bunch of flights booked last year that I couldn't take because of COVID, and after reaching out to customer support, they helped me file chargebacks, and I got my money back for all of them. All of them. With a debit card of all things. Compared to the horror stories I heard from people dealing with traditional banks to get their money back, what a shock. They didn't. This was an absolute dream. I definitely encourage you to do your own research between the two to figure out your preferred one, but Starling is my main. Links in the description to sign up. There's also other options like Revolut or Wise/TransferWise, but the thing is that those aren't real banks and your money isn't FSCS protected, which protects your savings up to £85,000 if something goes wrong. If things go awry with these other options, nobody's got your back. It's basically like having a Visa gift or travel card, but not a real bank account as your bank account. They're nice to have on the side, but definitely not as your primary. Transferring money. I'm gonna get straight to the point on this one. Just use TransferWise. Also now known as Wise. They've recently tried rebranding themselves to Wise, but let's be real. Ain't nobody gonna call them that. Nobody's gonna call them that. Out of everything I've used, it is the cheapest, easiest, and fastest way to move your money from country to country. It's been my mainstay for the last couple of years, moving many thousands of monies from Australia to Canada to the UK. So the way it works is that they have bank accounts in all these different countries. So to transfer money, you lock in an amount and a rate, then do a bank transfer to their account in your home country with a reference code in the description. And then they take the equivalent amount in the destination country, so the UK, and then transfer it to your account there. So they shuffle money around. It doesn't actually like cross borders. It just goes from here to here, but it works. If you've never used it before, sign up using my referral link here to get a free transfer. Please use it. It also helps me out too for the time I put into the video. Full disclosure, I actually applied to work for them as a YouTube content creator in my last video, and I didn't get the gig. I got an interview though, so the video actually worked. And even though I didn't get the job, I'm still happy to recommend them. That's how good they are, at least for now. Now that you got your money across to the UK, it's time to find a place to live. Apartments. This is a huge topic that I might go in depth with in a future video, so let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that. But here I'll give you the gist of where to look, UK things to watch out for, and then some London specific advice with some neighborhoods I like and would consider living in. Where to look. When you're starting your life in the UK, it's best to avoid actual real estate agents as they'll come asking you for tons of documents you probably don't have, like a reference from a previous UK landlord and proof of employment in the form of a permanent UK contract. What you want is a flat share. Renting in London is expensive enough as it is. And in the UK, the best site for finding one of those is Spare Room. There's other sites around, but as a default, basically everything is on there. There's tons of filters to narrow down your search to exactly what you want, including my favorite, no agents.
No agents. Agents, sorry.
Which helps you find the legit ones where some flatmates are looking to fill a room. The only catch with Spare Room is that to be able to message people who have just posted a listing, you'll need to pay a fee to access early bird listings, which I have used once. I paid for a week and it actually did help me secure a place I really wanted. It turned out to be an absolute nightmare of an apartment and I left after 3 weeks, but hey, I got it. I also highly recommend checking Facebook groups for your city. I have a bunch of London ones in the description below. My favorite is Hackney Wick Spaces, which covers most of East London. There's also sometimes listings on the various expats in London groups as people come and go. I have some other ones in the description, but be careful, as there's a lot of scammers around trying to direct you to their sites.google.com page or trying to coerce you into putting down a partial deposit before you get to inspect a place. Don't fall for that shit. This scam, this scam, this not a scam but a ripoff. For how much you should expect to pay, it completely depends on the area, but I currently pay $580 a month plus 19 bills for a room in a 3-bed apartment in Mile End, East London, Zone 2. Now that is definitely on the cheap side, but for this area I could expect to pay at max $850-ish for a nicer room, but my room is pretty big as it is, and I'm close to parks, Regent's Canal, and a short walk to Mile End Tube Station, which is on the Central Line, meaning that even on a night out, I can catch the night tube back home. Hey everyone, Editor Lashan here. I just wanted to add a quick note about another type of rental called Guardianships. So this was essentially set up as a means to provide cheaper rent, but also for landlords of commercial properties or more obscure properties like schools, pubs, churches under renovation to deter squatters from moving into a property. So what you're doing as part of a guardianship is you're basically house sitting to avoid allowing it to be lived in and avoid squatters breaking in and taking over the property. The properties you could live in as part of guardianships could be anything. It could be a house that the landlord can't renovate until they get cash flow a year from now. It could be a warehouse. It could be a castle. Some of my friends have lived in castles through this. The range of properties offered by guardianships is very broad, but you do get less rights than you would on, say, a proper lease. You do have to leave at a certain point because that's the point of a guardianship. But what you get in return is ridiculously cheap rent. Like, I'm talking £300, £400 a month, maybe 200. It can be dirt cheap. Keep in mind, this might be hard to get for your very first apartment in London, as they do generally require references. But I have some links to some guardianship sites in the description below. And back to the video. UK things to watch out for. There's a couple of UK specific things you should definitely be asking about when you're eyeing a place to live. First is asking if your deposit will be put into the Tenancy Deposit Protection Scheme. This is a legal requirement for all landlords as of 2007, and it will protect your deposit in the case that you have a dodgy landlord trying to withhold it from you. When you move out, you both have to agree on how much of your deposit you'll get back, and then they have 10 days to get it back to you. If there's a dispute, then the deposit is protected in the scheme until it's sorted. I have a link to the gov.uk site confirming all of this in the description. Show it to anybody who tries to argue this. If they say your deposit isn't in the scheme or make any kind of excuse, it's best to look for somewhere else, because that's an immediate red flag. Another main thing to look out for is to check if what you're coming into is a proper tenancy, a sublet, or a lodger agreement. Like most mundane things in life, this only becomes super important when things go wrong. A proper tenancy means you're on the lease and have a ton of rights, including having your deposit protected in the scheme. A sublet is paying to someone else on the lease without those protections, which I've done a couple times in the past. And then there's a lodger agreement. I had no idea what this was before I moved to the UK and only learned after I ended up in one. Whatever you do not sign a lodger agreement, ever. This is in no way a tenancy agreement or lease. You basically have no rights whatsoever, and everything is up to the whim of the landlord who you're living with. Any deposit you give them, it's up to their own goodwill to give it back to you when you leave. After having been in a lodger agreement, they're an immediate red flag, at least for me, for a micromanaging, power-tripping, insane nightmare of a landlord. If you want to hear about this story, let me know in the comments below, because it's a wild one. If you see one of these, just run away. No matter how nice a place looks, you'll be better for it. You also just want to be on the lease, as this helps later on in your life in the UK when it comes to looking for another place or proving longer term residency by being on the bills. London specific. I might be biased, but I love living in East London, Zone 2, and I don't think I'll be leaving it anytime soon. Rent is much cheaper than West London, and it also means that business rent is cheaper, so you get a ton of really cool small businesses and locally owned bars and cafes. Whereas in West London, the only businesses that can afford the high rent are the really high-end shops and Pret and Pizza Express. In summary, East London has a vibe, West London does not. Don't at me. Other places I'd recommend from my own personal preference are Islington/Angel, Dalston, Hackney, Brixton, and Clapham. All the Australians live in Clapham, and that's why I'm not there. Driver's license. If you have a driver's license from one of the following countries, you are eligible to exchange your license as long as it's valid to a UK one for just £43. This works even if your license is close to expiry when you send it in. Just go to the link below, follow the prompts, order a D1 form to fill out, and send in your old license with a passport style photo to use and an ID. so your BRP. For the photos, I actually just went into a random photo booth at a tube station and got the photos printed there for £6. It took about a week to get mine back, but it can take up to 3 weeks. I highly recommend doing this within a year of arriving because they don't just give you any license, but one that's valid for 10 years. As an Australian from New South Wales, you can pay as much as $60 for just 1 year, or $352 for 10. This is an absolute bargain. For those of you with an EU license, you don't have to do anything. Lucky you. If you're not on this list, you can't exchange your license, but you can drive on it for up to 12 months at least. How to get a job. Getting a job, particularly your first job in London, is quite the struggle, as a lot of places require you to have UK-based work experience, but it's not impossible. Here, I'm taking you through how to find not casual or part-time work, but professional jobs in your field, whether that's on a fixed contract or permanent. To put it simply, especially when you're applying for your first job, don't bother applying to jobs directly. Most employers out there hire through recruitment agencies. I have a non-exhaustive list of recruiters in a link in the description below. What I did and what you should do is send your CV and contact details to literally all of them. I applied to 50 recruitment agencies, maybe 16 called me back, and I interviewed with 8 of them. Once they interview you and register you on the systems, they'll shop you around and call you back with potential jobs, so they can get a juicy commission. Keep in mind that any legitimate recruiter will not charge you a fee for finding you a job. It should always be free to you. They get paid their commission by the employer once you get hired and complete the contract or probationary period. In the UK, it's standard to have a 2-page CV. Bit of a change from the 1-pager that I was so proud of in Canada. And you shouldn't put your photo on the CV like you might do in, say, France. Another thing I noticed with applying to recruiters and jobs was that I only got callbacks once I had a UK phone number. Trying to apply for jobs from abroad with an international number yielded literally no results. Once I got my first job in London, details of the struggle in this video right here, it became a lot easier to find another job, and then eventually the job I wanted and stuck with. Don't be too picky when it comes to your first job in the UK or London. Living here is brutally expensive, and just see the first job as a stepping stone to the job you actually want. London tips and tricks lightning round. We're almost done. Now for those moving to London, which I guess a lot of you are, here are a couple of money/time saving tips and tricks I wish I acted on as soon as I got here. Let's go. Get a rail card. If you're under 30, get a rail card. Just get it. Trust me. It costs £30 and gives you 33% off all rail fares in the UK, including trains to the airport, and more importantly, 33% off all off-peak journeys on the London Underground and Overground. Those savings can add up real fast. To access these tube discounts, you'll also need an Oyster card, which you can get at a tube station for a £5 deposit. Just purchase a rail card at this link, whether it's a 16 to 25 card or the 26 to 31, just get the digital version. Download the app and log in, and then take your phone and your Oyster card to the nearest tube station. Find a staff member and then ask them to link your rail card to your Oyster card. They'll take your Oyster card and your phone with the rail card app open. Go to an Oyster card machine, input a few magic codes, and voila! Your Oyster card now has a discount. Best app for transport directions, City Mapper. It is way better than Google Maps for public transport directions. It can tell you exactly where on an underground train to sit to make your changes easier, what exits to take, and it's just all around better at giving directions and is way better in sync with delays or maintenance affecting your journey. If you're cycling, I use Commute for cycling GPS directions. It's way better than Google Maps because it actually gives you directions ahead of time instead of expecting you to do last-minute turns. Art Pass, if you're a student, it's £5 and gives you loads of discounts on paid gallery exhibits. Also, if you've worked at a university, you might have a university email address that might give you the Art Pass discount, maybe. Not speaking from experience, might or might not also work for Amazon Student, maybe. Co-op membership for £1, just get it as soon as you can. Co-op is a chain of supermarkets in the UK and it'll give you tons of savings in the form of vouchers and actually substantial amounts of cash back. If you have any more tips, leave them here in the comments and I'll have a look at them. And that's it. You should now hopefully have everything you need to know to get your life started in the UK and London. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, it really helps me out, and subscribe for more videos on my life here in London, travel stories, and all sorts of things as I stumble through making my life on the other side of the planet. Let me know in the comments what videos you'd like to see from me next, and I'll see you next time. Lashan, out.